into the news here. When I started researching this, I thought, I figure that the Germans would have been the worst. And to be honest, I mean, the stuff they did was brutal, and it was done to a lot of people. But what's happened in the States since then, and before, but since then, is almost too shocking to share, to be honest. And certainly, I think what's happening in Africa is shocking as well, as far as the pharmaceutical companies are concerned. But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. But a lot of things have happened this week, and Dave and I, we just spent the last hour talking to ourselves, as we want to do, when we have nothing else that can be done. That's exactly what happened. We'll probably bring it up next week.
Yeah, so last week, Mekki, in the second hour, I got us advanced through the notes, so
nice,
happy days.
State of Japan, excellent, good stuff. So you went through the Nazis, and if we should use the research and such?
Totally. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Then
and the show still stands. It's not removed, so happy days.
Okay, we hear Empire of Japan, unethical experiments, right?
That's what we can talk about next week, yes.
Next week, perfect. I got it marked in my show notes. Okay. Now, what has happened? What has happened is there's actually a number of things. Let's just unpack it for a little bit. I watched a documentary on Benjamin Netanyahu called the Bibi Files, which are essentially the edited and compiled and collated videos of his police interviews in his corruption investigation, and also the interviews interrogations more of his friends, family, etc., relating to those corruption charges. Fascinating stuff. But I'm really worried now for the Palestinians, because that Bibi, and I know, well, I don't know Benjamin Netanyahu, but ever since I studied political sciences at Sydney University some many years ago, and my major was, I guess, conflict studies and conflict in the Middle East, etc. So I was quite au fait with the topic. But the side of Benjamin Netanyahu that these videos reveal is very concerning, and he might very well strive for a forever war, because he's terrified of being sent to jail for corruption charges, which seem to be real enough. And Ehud Olmert, another former Israeli prime minister, actually did go to jail for corruption charges, but much lesser charges than what Benjamin Netanyahu would face. So this is my prediction. You can write it down if you like. And this war is not going to end soon, and it will end with Gaza being completely de-Palestinianized. The West Bank will be occupied. A good section of the southern Lebanon will become no man's land or de facto Israeli territory, and there will never ever be talk, as far as the Israelis are concerned, at least in this government, they have, about a two-state solution.
Annexing?
Oh no, they're annexing. Didn't I say the West Bank?
No, you didn't say annex. No.
Oh, yeah, they will annex the West Bank because they just passed a law that allows them to do it. So,
of course.
And on top of that, he and his former defense minister, whom he just fired, as well as, I want to say, Hamas leader, but I could be wrong. Might have been Hezbollah leader, but it doesn't matter because the Israelis said they killed him. Arrest warrants were issued by the ICC, the International Criminal Court, against those guys. And as a signatory to the International Criminal Court, certain countries are obliged to arrest him should he ever set foot. Now, America is not a signatory.
One of those, yeah.
But a lot of the European countries are. So if he were to set foot, and countries have confirmed that, if he comes here, we will arrest him because of crimes against humanity, war crimes, etc. That's pretty strong. So all the moral capital, all the sympathy people were feeling for the Israelis in the aftermath of the barbaric October attacks and there's no other word for it. There isn't. Heinous, maybe, or I mean, inhuman, if you want. But all the capital they had has completely evaporated in the light of the death of we think 40,000 plus Palestinians.
Yeah.
And the thing is this, right? And this is a question, and they're doing the same thing to Lebanon now, where they're just bombing an entire apartment building to kill one person, killing 30, 40, 50 other people. If you have a cockroach in your house, or a spider,
burn it.
If you had, let's make it more realistic. If you had a red-bellied black snake in your house, which will kill you, would you burn your house down? In fact, no, that's not actually. Would you burn down your suburb?
Sure.
Would you do that?
And look, if you're an American, you know about Australian wildlife. Yeah, you just pack up and leave. That's it, and then destroy it, light the match, and walk away. However, not us. No, not an Australian. So.
No, but you would call animal control, and they will get it, and then the stop problem. Like very surgical, like it's a surgical approach, which will leave your house and your suburb
intact,
standing.
That's right.
But that's exactly what's happened here. In order to kill his red, belly black snake or brown snake or whatever you have,
his nemesis,
he has burned down his suburb, or someone else's suburb, really.
Uh-huh. So,
that's what happened.
That's better if it's someone else's.
It's better if it's someone else's.
I've got to make a joke of it, or otherwise I get upset. I'm sorry, everybody. I can't help it. I know it's a very serious topic, and lives are there, and I'm not laughing about any of the violence at all. I'm laughing to avoid the hurt that I feel because people die, and I can't stand it.
But Dave, we need to laugh. You know why? Because it's so insane.
Yeah,
this is insane. This is truly a guy with an M60 trying to kill a mosquito in his house. That's what this is.
Elvis changing channels with a handgun. That's right.
I don't like what's on TV. Boom.
Yeah, you heard he did that, right?
That's everybody does that. Well, I do it. It's complete insanity, especially after military operations that have been going on for a year. Right? For a year. And you have to ask yourself, well, why didn't he declare victory? Because he doesn't want to declare victory. He doesn't want to declare mission accomplished. Overall. I mean, he will do it here and there.
You can't restart it when it's finished.
Yeah. But he'll move his troops on. Now Lebanon is in his sights. And we are already hearing a lot of talk about Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And to a lesser extent Syria. But Iran is very firmly in the crosshairs.
Yeah.
Very firmly. Which is funny because that plays right in the hands of the Saudis. It's just hilarious. Doesn't matter. But that's a huge problem. That's a massive issue for the Palestinians, and I do feel sorry for you.
I've got a friend of mine who's a friend of the show, and I know he does listen. He said he gave me a great term the other day, and it was finger on the scales. So if you remember when you went to a greengrocer's, like a local produce store, if you're in America, and you would buy your fruit and vegetables from someone, and they would put the fruit and vegetables in a scale, and they would see how much it weighed and then do a little calculation, and that's how much you would pay. But they were either had their thumb on the scale, making it heavier, right? He likened everyone's excuse for war now. I know I'm paraphrasing him, but to say that the people with their excuses are weighing the scale. They've got their thumb on the scale to make it look worse, to make it sound worse. For whatever the reason is that they first started a conflict, it's horrendously worse now. Oh, you can't imagine how worse it is. Thumb on the scales, right? Where they probably should have already stopped. How much, the eye for an eye, how much of that can you feel happy now? And Mackie, this is for the listeners, because we just spent an hour talking about Leicester.
That's true.
one thing, and I want the listeners to hear this, Becky, because it's like the first time they're going to hear this again. And are the leaders self-checking their position on things to where they were at the beginning? Because they gradually make little steps down a path away from the original cause, the original reason, the original emotion around, their thought processes, all their advisors. Everyone put a weighting on what they should do, and that was what it was agreed. And now they're so far down the path that they're not there anymore, and they should well have stopped a long time ago.
But you're right. There's no self-checking going on, I don't think. And I think that's a theme across the political spectrum in most countries. But more importantly here, do you remember the Iraq War? The last one, I mean.
Yes.
The last one.
The last one? Yeah.
The last one. The Americans went in, and no offense, to the Americans, it was a coalition issue, but nobody had a plan for after the war. Nobody had a plan. There was no plan. There's no plan.
Don't need a plan. It's going to be perpetual, isn't it? Forever war.
Well, there's that. But there was no plan. There was no plan on what to do with the Iraqis. There's no plan on how to treat the Kurds or the Shias or the Sunnis. And now, of course, it's then we had ISIS. And what's happening with the self-checking is because you have to have a plan to start with. And I don't think Netanyahu had a plan beyond, annexing or not annexing, destroying Gaza, destroying southern Lebanon, and annexing the West Bank. That's the plan. And checking against that plan, though, he's doing real good, Dave.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
doing real good, right? And because the plan was never to just destroy Hamas and Hezbollah. And by the way, tomorrow when I was young, was the PLO. Nobody talks about the PLO anymore, right? But when I was young, was Arafat and the PLO.
That's right.
That's who it was. And Black September, and there was the Baader Meinhof gang in Germany. There's a whole bunch of other terrorists or anarchists or whatever you want to call them. And tomorrow it won't be Hamas and Hezbollah because they've been sufficiently degraded.
It'll be someone else.
Yeah, but as soon as they played the card of walkie-talkies and pagers, as soon as that happened, I thought, no, that's it. They're going all out. You don't do this unless you're going all out. And lo and behold, here we are. But they're going all out against the population. They want to, what they're doing now is they want to degrade the Palestinian and Lebanese people to the point where they won't be a threat for 100 years. For 100 years. Okay?
They could keep one in a zoo. I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious.
It happened in the past.
Well, that was my point, right? But only keep one. Yeah, but only keep one. They can't be a problem then.
That's right. What's this one? We used to call these guys Palestinians. And Iran will follow as soon as they degrade. I mean, as soon as, in fact, it doesn't even have to have an end.
No,
it doesn't have to be. The Iraq War didn't really have an end.
No,
it's still not finished. Right? It was the forever war that Orwell told us about, which is what this is. Netanyahu, as long as he's alive and he wants to avoid corruption charges and going to jail, he needs to keep this war going.
That's right.
He needs to, right?
It sounds like some other countries.
Well, look, this is really funny, right? We've had good 50 years, 60 years of democracy, more or less, in the West, right? I mean, we've tried it, right? And other countries don't have a democracy. They still work. They're still functioning. They're still functioning countries. Right? You don't need democracy for a country to work. You don't. And I think that experiment is coming to an end. I think what we're going to move into very swiftly, not so much in Europe maybe, or in Western Europe, right? But elsewhere in the world, we are moving to generational power structures. Similar to what's happening in North Korea. Similar to what's happening in Singapore, similar to what's happening in China, and there are many other nations in the world where the political families, they might be in power, then out of power, in power, out of power. It's a bit like that. In the Philippines, a bit like that. China is more the party, right? It's the party, and they don't really establish generational rulers, but they have the party apparatus that brings the right people in their mind to power, right? And Putin will do whatever he can, in my mind, to establish, because Putin won't be alive. He's not going to live forever, right? He's not. So what's going to happen post Putin? I don't know. How old is Putin? Let me just double check. But the thing is, everything that's happening right now, in Ukraine, Russia, that's Putin. He's 72. He was born in 1952. Oh, it was just his birthday on the 7th of October. So he's 72 years old. All right? He could have another 20, maybe even 30 years in him, right? Modern medicine, whatever. But if he's 10 years Joe Biden's junior. So, and Joe Biden, when he was 10 years, Joe Biden 10 years ago bears no resemblance to Joe Biden now.
That's true.
I think we can all agree on that, right? So do we think Vladimir Putin might look like that in 10 years' time? Well, that'd be something to see. But what will happen post-Putin? Who's going to be replacing?
Oh, there'll be someone
Putin?
else.
Does he have kids? I don't know.
Secession
grooming
planning,
someone?
Mickey.
Well, he does have kids, right?
Yeah.
Let me just, because he does have kids. Where was he? Maybe he doesn't. Family? No, it doesn't say. Putin children. But is he grooming them for power? If not, they'll be in the background. They're still rich. Family Vladimir Putin here, blah, blah. He's got two daughters. And they're about my brothers. They are actually younger than my brother. He's also got a son, but he died in 1999. Oh, no, sorry, that was a different guy. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go, two daughters. Anyway, but the point is that someone has to take over from Putin, right? Who will be that person? I don't know. But right now, for the next 20 years or so, and by the way, in North Korea, it's the sister that's being groomed. Do you know that? The sister.
Yeah, that's right. I knew that one.
Which is really interesting. But again, it's in the family. It's similar in Singapore, again, like I said, other countries. That's where we are, Dave. And Trump wants this. For sure. Donald Trump wants this kind of staying power. He wants what Putin has. That's funny. So what kind of world will we have in 4 years' time? In 10 years' time, for that matter? I don't know. But it won't be the same world we're inhabiting now. I can tell you that. So, and that's what going from the from Palestine to Ukraine, Dave. And there's no checking either, because we discussed this earlier, like we said, and he has sent hundreds of thousands of his people into harm's way, and hundreds of thousands of his people were either killed or maimed. Then he emptied the prisons, and whoever survived was pardoned and sent back into the population. Now those pardoned prisoners have killed killed and injured hundreds of Russians. And all they do is they get sent back to the front. If they survive again, they will be sent back again. And he's now brought in, before that he had brought in Nepalese, Africans, Syrians to fight for him. But now he's brought in 10,000 North Korean troops. 10,000 North Korean troops will enter Ukrainian territory, or maybe already have. And that's when the West goes, oh my God, no more. Like we can't. I mean, this is World War II all over. The appeasement of Hitler. And then we can't have that. And again, Dave and I discussed this at length while we're off the air for the first hour. But this is now very, very dangerous, because all of a sudden you've got, and the North Koreans received some military attack from Russia for that, and now Putin says, well, if you if you use weapons, Ukraine, against me that were given to you by a power that has nuclear weapons, then we will treat you as though you have nuclear weapons. We will respond as though we are being threatened in a nuclear way. And then nobody wins.
I've got the story up on the screen here, Mackie, that UK and France approved Ukraine's use of long-range missiles for strikes inside Russia. That comes from Yahoo News, but Biden has also signed off on the ATACMS long-range. Same. And each of them are nuclear powers, and Putin's displayed his ICBM with dummy warheads already on Ukraine, but at what point does he replace them with an actual nuke? Not one. They've got plenty of.
Maybe we don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have to worry about his succession.
Well, maybe not. Maybe, I'm sure every person on the planet is triangulatable, right? So, I wonder how long. If I could start a stopwatch now and see how long it is before he uses at least one tactical nuke in Ukraine. I just wonder. I wonder how long it's going to be, because I don't know. I don't want to take a guess, because I don't want to call it. I don't want it to be real.
Well,
but this is World War III, Mackie, isn't it?
Well,
are we already in it?
For all intents. Well, I think we are. I mean, people didn't know they were in World War II when Poland was attacked. So. Yeah,
that's true.
But World War II, you can trace back to the occupation of the Rhine embankments by Hitler's forces. Anyway, it's really let's think about this tactical nuclear strike. You need to strike an area that you do not want to go into, right? And you also have to understand what it does. So there were a number of reasons the Americans used atomic weapons on Japan. Number of reasons. One, they had learned that Japanese fight to the last man. They don't surrender, right? So any invasion of the Japanese mainland, the Japanese country, which is an island, but in the mainland, let's call it, would have resulted in massive American or Allied casualties. Massive. They knew that. Because the Japanese would fight every inch of ground. They learned that in Okinawa. And so the idea to use the two nukes, and it had to be two because it had to show that it was repeatable, right? Not a fluke, but
it wasn't a one-off. That's right.
Ability. Yeah, we have the ability to do it, but we also have the ability to do it again. It wasn't until after the second strike that Japan actually surrendered, right?
Do you know how long it took for word of the first strike to get through to the Emperor?
I do not know.
It was more than a week.
Well,
because there wasn't any communication lines there anymore. There was no way to communicate.
That's fair.
With them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because the EMP would have taken it along.
And they discovered there was nothing there. The town was gone.
Yeah, that's terrifying. But yeah, in fact, no, there's no Hiroshima or Nagasaki anymore. And so that was the thinking here was, okay, if we do this, then we'll save hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of lives that would be lost in the invasion. Okay, so that's how they justified it. But there was another and deeper reason the Americans used the atomic bombs, because already the blocks were forming. Remember, the war in Europe was already over. The war in Europe was over, and the Russians had taken Berlin, and the borders were sort of solidifying into the Warsaw Pact and the NATO alliance, which didn't exist yet, but you could see them forming up already, right? You could see it. And the Americans knew the new enemy would be the Soviet Union. So they wanted to show the Soviet Union, hey, I got atomic bombs, so you better watch out, right? And that's also the reason why Operation Paperclip came along. That's also the reason why a lot of the Nazi hierarchy, especially in the intelligence communities, survived and helped build the CIA, if not completely build it. And other intelligence organizations, as well as the rocket program, Apollo program that the United States had, the eventual creation of NASA and all of that. That's all on the back of Operation Paperclip. So those were the things. Now, and that's him. And so Putin would be thinking similarly, because he's not stupid. He's student history. He knows what happened. He would choose a shocking target that would render all resistance or pretty much finish off the Ukrainian people
like
in one fell swoop. Not killing them all.
Like
Kiev, I was thinking Kiev. Makes the most sense.
Instead of
Makes the most
taking it,
sense to
destroy it.
strike.
Done.
Yeah, because we need Odessa. Well, sorry, the Russians want Odessa. They want the infrastructure. They want the Crimea. But Kiev, well, you
It's
have
up the
Kiev,
north.
you don't have Kiev, whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. But this would be the first time, unless you have read the Reich of the Black Sun, the book. I mean, there's some really interesting research that happened regarding the Nazi nuclear weapons and what might have or may not have been used in Russia in World War II. But again, that's a whole different show and topic. But this would have been the very first time that a nuclear device would have been used in Europe. Now, when that happens, two things can happen. One is nothing. Everybody stands down and thinks, well, this is dreadful. This is heinous. This is the worst thing that could happen. But we don't want it to get worse.
So we stand down and give Putin what he wants for him to stop.
Well, to some extent, yes.
You surrender.
I mean,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, everything is on DEFCON 3 already, right? I mean, everywhere. Like everybody's got everything. Every finger is poised over every button, and all the codes have been cracked and read out. But so there's one tactical nuke that was used, and let's say it's tactical, right? Which would have low yields.
It won't be the Tsar bomber that destroys the whole of Ukraine.
No. We're talking like a kiloton. We're talking like a device maybe slightly more powerful than the Nagasaki or Hiroshima bombs.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a deeply effective strike because it demoralizes quite possibly the Ukrainian people. And
instead.
Yeah, that's a whole different level.
I know
of evil.
what it is.
But again, you take out the Ukrainian government, you take out Zelensky, you take out whatever, and then of course what we will see, if that were to happen and there's a stand down, we will see an iron wall, the iron curtain come down so hard and fast, it's not even funny. Because at that moment Russia will become a pariah nation completely. Mm-hmm. And it will be sanctioned, and anybody who deals with them will similarly be sanctioned. So I can see an alliance between North Korea and Russia. I don't think China would want to be associated with that kind of thing, because China is doing well. They've done really well to come out of the 17th century into the 21st.
Yeah.
I don't think they want to jeopardize that. They still want to sell their stuff. They want to make money. They want to be a power in the world. And if Russia uses a nuclear weapon, it will become a pariah state, completely cut off. And the only thing they can do is wield the specter of nuclear warfare. And what will happen at that point? At that point, unless they already exist, there will be plans drawn up in anger that will have only one goal in mind, two goals. One, rid the world of Putin, and two, rid the world of the Russian nuclear stockpile. Mm-hmm. These two things will become the paramount aim for all the intelligence services in the world, because he has shown that he will use it. Right? It's one thing to threaten, especially after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and again, you can make the argument from a utilitarian point of view that using those two bombs saved millions of lives. You could conceivably make that argument, right? This didn't do anything like that. This was just Russia being threatened in a corner, using a nuke on the Ukraine that pretty much, called game on it. That's the way I see it, Dave. It's not good.
No. I want to, just while we're still there, I want to talk about Poland. For that matter, they're going to be neighbours, right? And I don't think Poland is going to like that, although since World War II they've not had combat with anybody. There has been combat in Europe, but they've not been part of it, and they've got the highest spend in the NATO group for a GDP spend. I think it's 4.7% GDP, which is crazy. They're big numbers. And the biggest thing that we're seeing has been the growth of NATO through this current Russian force move. That's kind of Star Wars reference. And Poland, don't shoot at them. I heard a fellow talking about this, and he said, I wouldn't shoot at them because they're ready to go. And I would call them like a bulldog behind the gate. They're barking, and you don't want that gate to fail. You don't want there to be an action. Don't open the gate. That's pretty bad. So, look, I think, what's it called? The bulletin, that atomic bulletin people. They're sitting on their hands.
Atomic scientists.
Yeah. They're sitting, how are they not?
Or maybe they want to panic. Maybe they don't want to panic us. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. They don't want to panic us, but we're currently at the most dangerous point in history since nuclear weapons have begun.
Yeah.
on their doomsday clock. But we won't count any of the current fighting. They're due in January to make another call. They are. That's when they announce their annual future prediction. But you've got to say that we are at the height of the worst period in human history. We have the most deadliest weapons. We have the angriest leaders. We've got everyone poised, ready, with, like Maggie said, with the finger on the button. It's a Simpsons quote. What button? Right.
This one?
No, because remember when he was running for mayor? And he's got his finger on the button. Do you want him to have his finger on it? And the mayor goes, what button? I haven't got a button. I don't mean you're mayor, I'm not the the head of the US military or anything. So yeah, that's a bit of a worry. It really is that we are where we are at. I don't know if the world has heard. I'm changing subject, Maggie. I don't know if the world has heard about us in Australia.
Busted.
And how we have a mis and disinformation bill. While America is hearing the glorious words of freedom of speech, but that can be argued because there's still rules around freedom of speech. Yes, you can say what you like, but you can also get sued by the people you've slandered or you've done anything. If you've done anything wrong legally in what you've said, someone's going to get you. So freedom of speech is really not controlled speech so much. It's self-policed speech. You can use comparisons to mythical creatures, and it's very difficult to get sued when you do that. To fictitious TV characters, you can do the same thing. I could compare someone to a Simpsons character. Yeah, they're very popular, but what are you going to do? They're not real. But if I was to say someone did something in particular and it wasn't true and I didn't use the word alleged, that's one thing. Having an opinion is different. I think, or my opinion is this. That's okay. You should be allowed to have opinions, and you should be allowed, through freedom of speech, really to debate, discuss, and have an alternate narrative. They're okay to do, and they should be okay to do. They really should. And I think that should be in every country, because who's more afraid of the truth than anyone else, Becky? I mean, it's kind of rhetorical, but it's the people who aren't telling the truth.
That's of course right, yeah.
And so a government who decides that you can no longer speak the truth, if it's going to counter their version of the truth, if they're going to have the Ministry of Truth to tell you what is true and what isn't, right? because that's what this Australian bill was designed to do. They were going to have what some politicians have labelled bureaucrats deciding what was the truth and what wasn't the truth. And apparently that bill is not going to get up, thank goodness, and says Shadow Attorney General Michaela Cash on a Sky News interview. Thankfully, that's the case. That's all I can say about that, except that Michaela had said that announced this, and the interviewer asked a great question, and that isn't that similar to the one that your party said they were going to bring in? And she said no, it's totally different.
Completely different. What are you talking about, crazy person?
So the bill that's just been squashed or quashed, but it's about to be, because I think the final sitting days are these next 5 days, and it's going to probably be removed. So it doesn't have the votes to get up, is what I'm saying, right? Anyway, the two bills, the only difference between the two bills is the way that you describe them. So the current one was there was going to be a parliamentary or a governmental bureau who decide what truth is, and whatever they say, then big tech would have to ensure that people didn't say something other than those words. If they countered them, then they would be their message. Their posts would be taken down. There would be probably things you would have to do. You could have your account removed or the post removed and appealed. Unlikely, they said. And the Internet Tsar also said that, the mechanisms that big tech would put in place would reduce the need for appeal. That's great. That's all you want. You want it to be just like Facebook. You want it to be exactly like YouTube, where you push the appeal button and it just says denied. That's what you want.
It goes to room 404. That's
404 error. That's right. Yeah, it does that. So the bill that the party, this lady who was very happy to see this bill getting torn down, the truth is that their bill was completely different, she says, and I'm paraphrasing her so I don't want to get in trouble. From memory, she said that no, they would advise big tech on what was the right and wrong thing to say, and it was up to big tech to enforce it. That was the difference. Like, huh? I don't see the difference. Maybe I didn't get to read both bills side by side. I'm sure there would be a difference in there somewhere. Maybe the signature is in it. That would definitely show up in a scan comparison. You've done those, haven't you, Mackie, to see two documents, to see what's different between the two? Yeah. I've used the tool for that, and I think that might be it. So to see that fall down, to see the bill maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, not get through, it's a good thing. But to hear the way, I've got to say that I was kind of on side with her when she was rejoicing at this bill not getting through. It's like, yeah, I'm on your side. Yeah, that's fantastic. And then the interviewer asked the follow-up questions, and I'm going, hang on a minute. Yeah, that's right. Oh, wow. Your bill didn't get through, and this one's not going to get through, and good luck with that. So if free speech, Mackie, if free speech is meant to be, however free speech is defined, at least debatable, like a narrative should be debatable, facts should be able to come to light so you don't end up in persecution or,
Facts.
You know what I mean? The sun is the center of the solar system. Heretic, right? You should be able to find new things. And as science changes, if they put this in science, you just pause civilization. It would never go forward. It would never go forward. So right now, I know there's some Senate things going on, and I really don't want to do anything to get our show cancelled, but there is. I really don't. But without doing that, I want to make this. I want to make this very important statement. So there is a current discussion that there's a Senate inquiry in Australia. Jared Rennick had posted, and it's about something that we all had recently in the last few years. And you can, if you're looking at this on YouTube, you'll see the discussion at the bottom. And because he's a government senator talking about this and bringing something to light to our Therapeutic Goods Administration, our TGA in Australia. I can't say any other words. And this discussion he's bringing something to light, which is really important. And even that video has at the bottom of it on YouTube, click here to get the latest information from the Australian Department of Health. On the bottom, it's got the clickable link to discover the truth. What is the truth? The truth is whatever the government says. And even the senator, in an inquiry, trying to get to the truth, has still the message from the government at the bottom. And that disturbs me. Can you imagine the new world if the bills got through, where we wouldn't be able to have any discussion, any recourse, no debate, but the people making the rules, they're above that. They're exempt from the rules of the masses. It reminds me of that Zeus quote I think Stephen Fry was talking about, Mickey. He said, "Don't let the people get the spark of life. Don't let them have the idea. Don't let them know. Don't give them the knowledge."
But that's this enforced ignorance, right? Which was countermanded to some extent over the last 120 years, is back in full force, right?
Yeah.
In fact, it's welcomed by many people. I mean, this whole debate about facts and my truth versus your truth, and it's complete insanity. It's just, I mean, either something, alternative facts as well. I mean, either something is or it isn't. It's simple, right? I mean, it really is. And of course, opinions are different, but the thing in and of itself, like a chair is a chair is a chair. An apple is an apple is an apple. And you can argue until you're blue in the face, it'll never be a pineapple, right?
Oh, a four-legged chair is just a four-legged stool.
I'm happy with that too. Stool and chair I can live with. That, if you want to call it a stool, so be it. But other than that, we have this whole woke movement and the confusion as to who is what and how we are using our pronouns and all that. Look, there are, but look, there are people that are truly different from the XY XX norm. They just are, right? And that's cool. And some are physically different. There are physical differences, and others are mentally different. And I think that's great. I mean, that adds to the color of the human race.
But I don't have any superpowers.
It's a minority of. Sorry.
I don't have any superpowers.
That's right. But whose fault is that? The Romans. No.
What have they done for us lately?
Yeah, the aqueduct. It's really the question of, what is the debate? What are we trying to say? Who are we? Where are we? What is going on? I mean, all these things are shifting and they're becoming diffused and unclear, and people are confused. And it is really easy in this climate to make proclamations such as, I mean, think about this for a second. In the 50s, in the 60s, this is after World War II, the economic miracle, whatever. America is in a boom as well. And someone comes along, we have a great reset, you'll own nothing. That person wouldn't have lasted 2 seconds. You'll own nothing? What do you mean? Oh, this is my stuff. What do you mean you own nothing? It's my stuff.
The next thing that happens is it rubs its lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again.
That's right. There's no way that anybody would have stood for it. But today, in the climate that was created. And make no
Yeah.
mistake,
Hmm.
a lot of the things that are happening in the world, they didn't just happen. They were driven to certain outcomes, right? And we're living in a world that has been highly manipulated. And if you think otherwise, I urge you to read up on your history and understand the backgrounds and the motivations of people, etc., etc. Because now, when you say it, okay. And a lot of people that are maybe unemployed, that may be having hard time, and there's a lot of people these days, cost of living crisis, which is the cost of living crisis is completely made up. It's real,
Yeah.
but it didn't just happen. It didn't happen. It was guided into existence. And people call me crazy, conspiracy theorist. That's fine. You can do that. That's okay. Trust me when I tell you this. This is not an accident. This is not an accident. And then you have to also look at what is being done to countermand the effects of this so-called cost of living crisis. The instruments that are being used, the policies that are being put forward.
And you know
the
what's
actions
happening
that governments are taking.
worldwide, right?
Yeah. And the answer is the wrong tools are being used. None of the actions that should be taken are being taken.
That's right.
Profiteering and price gouging is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Supermarkets are walking away with billions of dollars of profit, not revenue.
No, profit. That's right.
Other institutions, the rich have gotten richer
Mm-hmm.
since 2008. 2008, you thought, everything's going to change. The banking sector is going to be reorganized. COVID. Supply chains were compromised.
That's
We're
right.
going to manufacture in country again. We're gonna be more focused on our in-country capabilities,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't rely on the world, because it's not a question of if but when the next pandemic is going to
And
hit.
that could have had all the right countermeasures put in place.
Yeah.
But what happened? Nothing.
And so now we okay. In Australia, economic, and I'm not sure if that's also happened globally, but in Australia, economic analysts, people that are classically trained economists,
That's right.
which probably disagree with me on everything I say, but this one thing, which I've been saying and Dave has been saying for years, since this whole thing started, the government has to step in. You have to fix prices. You have to. The interest rate changes are not the instrument, because
That's right.
they're not effective.
Mm-hmm.
The economy as it is today is no longer the economy as it existed in the 50s and 60s and 70s.
No, that's right.
Things are costing ridiculously more than they have. That has happened over time, especially real estate, especially in Australia, but elsewhere as well. Real estate has gone through the roof. But the other things that are happening, such as groceries, etc., that's a fairly recent phenomenon. And the problem is not that people are spending more money on more stuff. We've said this before.
That's
They're
right.
spending more money on the same stuff
And getting less.
and getting less.
Mm-hmm. But
Shrinkflation.
if you have a look at all the WEF, Great Reset signed on members, they're all the countries that have had these cost of living crises. And so I believe it's a deliberate crushing of the economy so that we can all beg
no doubt.
for our universal basic income.
Yeah. In fact, look, begging won't be necessary, because they'll be more than happy to give it to you.
That's right.
All right, there'll be no begging. They'll be like, oh yeah, no, of course, step right in, Cinnamon. Come on, there's a song. There's this great song.
1 minute.
And step right in. Oh, the devil said yes. Come on in. They're not going to make us beg. They'll give it to us, because that's what they want.
Yeah.
They want us to become completely dependent on, the state, really, which is ultimately them, right? The thems of the world. It's a terrifying situation for me.
So,
at least.
Mackie,
I think it's
the banks said you couldn't take out an amount of money from the bank. I think $1,000, anything greater than that, you had to give a reason why. And then they complained about the use of cash depleting, and now they can't afford to move cash around because it's too expensive.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
They did
That's
it
right.
themselves.
Cash is king. Cash is king.
It used to be king. I think it's a court jester now.
I know, but for me, I always believe, no, it's fiat currency, I know, but ultimately cash is king. That's your cue, Dave.
There's the music. Look, this is the end of the show. Coming up next is probably Jer Bear, hopefully, with this awesome show. And look, if you're listening to this on YouTube, do like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'll answer any questions you have. And until next week, we'll see you on Tuesday at 7 a.m. Thursday, which is, I think, Thanksgiving. We'll see you then at 7 a.m. as well. And this time again next week for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mackie. And in the meantime, Mackie,